Miriam Margolyes, a figure well known for her many stellar roles over the years, has made a mark in the classic entertainment sphere. You might recognize her as Professor Sprout from the Harry Potter series, or perhaps from her earlier role in 1993's The Age of Innocence. In today's video, we're looking into the instances where Margolyes openly expressed her disdain for some of her fellow co-stars. Facts Verse presents Miriam Margolyes reveals the co-stars she hates the most. Steve Martin was a major jerk. Up first, let's talk about Margolyes' not-so-pleasant experience working with the acclaimed Hollywood comedian Steve Martin. Their collaboration came during the filming of the cult classic Little Shop of Horrors, released in 1986. Margolyes played the secretary to Martin's character, the psychopathic dentist Orin Scrivello. While the movie was a bit of a comic twist, it seems the experience behind the scenes was anything but funny for Margolyes. During the filming of a musical number titled Dentist, Margolyes experienced a series of physical knocks, purportedly from Martin, that left her nursing an actual headache at the end of the day. In a recent interview, she hinted at the possibility that Martin might have been engrossed in method acting, which would explain the lack of restraint during the scene. Despite the physical toll the role took on her, Margolyes maintained a sense of humor about the situation, stating that she indeed, quote, suffered in the name of art. Despite her ordeal, she couldn't help but acknowledge Martin's undeniable talent, though she found his behavior towards her to be, as she put it, horrid. Fortunately, she found solace and kindness in another co-star, Steve Buscemi, who she mentioned was incredibly sweet, even saying he was far superior in kindness than Martin. John Cleese and Graham Chapman. In another recent candid interview, Miriam Margolyes didn't hold back her thoughts on veteran comedian John Cleese, whom she had the displeasure of performing with during her early days in the 1960s at Cambridge's prestigious comedy society Footlights. While acknowledging Cleese's brilliance as a comedian, especially during his tenure with Monty Python and his time on BBC's Fawlty Towers, she expressed that Cleese seemed to have undergone a negative transformation over the years. With sharp words, Margolyes likened Cleese's change in persona to milk going sour, describing him as having become an irrelevance and a puny tadpole of a person. These harsh remarks seem to reflect on Cleese's controversial viewpoints that have turned him into a divisive figure recently. Cleese, who is gearing up to unveil a new show on GB News, found himself at the center of criticism due to his outspoken affection for the Englishness of his upbringing, which he feels was less abrasive compared to current times. Recalling her interactions with Cleese and Graham Chapman back in 1962, Margolyes revealed that the duo appeared to be quite poisonous, particularly taking a resentful stance towards her when she managed to get laughs from the audience. This dynamic seemed to stem from a sense of competition, perhaps magnified due to the gender norms of that era, as Margolyes felt they perceived her as too self-assured, which did not sit well with them at the time. Despite the rocky relationships with Cleese and Chapman, Margolyes had nothing but praise for other Monty Python members like Michael Palin, appreciating him as a special man, and Eric Idle, whom she lauded for his intelligence and sense of humor. Winona Ryder's Wayward Ways. In a November 2021 appearance on The Graham Norton Show, Miriam Margolyes didn't hesitate to voice her clear disapproval and utter disdain of fellow actress Winona Ryder. Margolyes, who was on the program to discuss her autobiography This Much Is True, took a moment to reflect on her experience working with Ryder during the filming of Age of Innocence. She recounted the costume parade process before filming started, where the cast members would be examined to ensure their outfits were in tune with their respective characters. In this large gathering, which included eminent personalities like Daniel Day-Lewis and Michelle Pfeiffer, Margolyes singled out Ryder, referring to her by a less than flattering moniker derived from Ryder's past shoplifting conviction in 2001. This incident had Ryder convicted for stealing around $5,000 worth of designer clothes from a posh store in Beverly Hills. The consequences saw her under supervised probation for 3 years, coupled with community service, a monetary fine, and a mandate to undergo counseling. When dishing out these dirty details on the Graham Norton Show's stage, Margolyes' revelation was met with a mix of shock and amusement from her fellow guests. The moment was heightened by Stephen Fry's visible reaction, which consisted of him covering his face with his hand amidst the audience's laughter. Norton then proceeded to affirm Margolyes' sentiments humorously, amplifying her disdain for Ryder. Following the exchange, the conversation moved swiftly past the Ryder incident, with Margolyes mentioning other colleagues such as the adorable Richard E. Grant and Sean Phillips. Terry Scott was the nastiest. In her autobiography, Miriam Margolyes didn't shy away from airing her true feelings about several of her former colleagues. One person who bore the brunt of her critique was the late actor and comedian Terry Scott, known for his role in several Carry On films. Margolyes branded Scott as the nastiest person she has ever had the misfortune to work with. She went on to elaborate that Scott was far from professional, especially towards the chorus girls, attempting to grope and kiss them without their consent. When his advances were rejected, he would publicly demean them, showcasing a clear lack of respect and decency. Despite his notorious reputation, Margolyes speculated that Scott would probably have behaved better around his co-star from the sitcom Terry and June, the late June Whitfield, who was seen as a figure of respect and decorum in the industry. Margolyes mentioned her assumption that he wasn't a pleasant kisser, aligning with his unpleasant personality traits that she outlined in her memoir. This harsh critique contrasts starkly with her pleasant recollections of the late entertainer Bob Monkhouse, whom she credited as the best male kisser she has encountered in her career, describing him as kind, funny, and generous. She also recounted her unpleasant experiences with other figures in the entertainment world, including Bill Oddie, whom she accused of vicious treatment towards her during their time together at Cambridge University's Footlights Drama Club. Arnold Schwarzenegger's unpardonable deed. Much like every other unfortunate soul featured in this video, Miriam Margolyes hasn't wavered to share her distaste for Arnold Schwarzenegger, stemming from a rather unpleasant experience during the filming of the 1999 supernatural action movie End of Days. In a recent episode of the I've Got News for You podcast, Margolyes recollected an incident she still hasn't been able to shake off. In the movie, she played Satan's sister, a role that positioned her at the receiving end of Schwarzenegger's character's wrath. While this would have been manageable if confined to their scripted interactions, Margolyes revealed that Schwarzenegger took advantage of their scene together to carry out a gross and disrespectful act. During a pause in filming, with Margolyes lying on the floor unable to escape, Schwarzenegger allegedly farted directly in her face, an act she deemed deliberate. She expressed her scorn for Schwarzenegger, criticizing him for being overly self-absorbed and highlighting his affiliation with the Republican Party as another reason she finds him disagreeable. Miriam flashed Martin Scorsese. In a vivid account from her second memoir, Oh Miriam, Stories from an Extraordinary Life, Miriam shared a cheeky incident that happened during filming of The Age of Innocence. She recounted how she decided to add a spark of liveliness to a tired and fatigued film crew during a long morning on set. According to Margolyes, the crew had been working since the early morning, diligently attending to a lengthy lineup of actors. So, in a bold gesture, she lifted her maroon Dickens Universe t-shirt, freeing her unrestrained bust in what she humorously described as a snowy Victoria Falls of memorial magnificence. The scene froze, followed by a stunned and dazed silence from Scorsese and the crew. Now it's time to hear from you. Which one of these people were you most surprised to hear about in this video? Let us know in the comments section below.